Looking at Strange New Worlds here. This is, yeah, the box is badly damaged. The game is not in good shape overall. This is something I saw really early. I don't remember what hooked me into picking it up, whether it was just really cheap in an auction or if I had seen some hint of something. I tend to look at the BGG listing, to see, hey, does this sound interesting to me? And it does. So, but I picked this up really early in my sort of return to gaming and doing the videos and whatnot. When, oh boy, it's getting windy. It looked like something was sneaking up on me. My hallucinations and dreams are getting more and more interesting. But it looked intriguing. I'm into space games. It's sort of an exploration type game is what it sounded like, with the idea of crew members. The thought that Voyage of the Pandora is getting a reboot from GMT, and yes, I'm in on that, definitely, is part of what, part of what brought it to mind too. Hey, I want to do this now. Another part is, damn it, I've wanted to play this for a long, long fucking time. I've wanted to give it a shot because it's very, very lightweight, but it looks like it might have some interesting facets to it. Anyway, it's one of the few games that my past wife was really kind of excited about when she saw it. But for a number of reasons, I never got to playing it, either with her or otherwise. And then, of course, as time passed, she became less and less into gaming, and I don't know, life took different turns. This is going to be a little different from most of my coverage because I'm having a hard time. I read through the rules a couple of weeks ago, but fucking conquistadors, my unwillingness to devote enough time to get that done prevented me from, being able to get this to the table soon after reading it. But also, I'm running into some issues where I'm not sure how anything goes. Now, I could start setting it up and everything, but I'm going to just kick into the rules, show you some of the difficulties that I'm having with it as we go. But in concept, what I think is going on is that there's locations here which match these chips, but it's really hard because they're very hard to read. I'm not absolutely certain about this. Like Kudirat. And they're not in alphabetical, and here's Kudikat. Is that what this is? Yeah, so this is Kudikat. Now, there should be one along here then. There is, down here, which is a really stupid place for it to be if it's up there. But I don't think it's really up there. See, what you do is these are going to represent what the actual location is, which kind of sucks. And I'm not sure why they do, except that it hides the black holes. But it's very strange. It's like this map shows a picture of the reality, and you don't actually use it. That disturbs me. Okay, that's the first thing I wanted to look up. Another thing that is problematic is these green markers are money. Okay. Supposedly they have a denomination on them, and if I stare real fucking hard and turn them and twist them, like I think this maybe says 100 or 50 or something. This looks like it says 2, but I don't think that's right. I think it says 50. They're just unreadable, and supposedly they're sort of color-coded, with the lower denominations being a paler than the darker, and I can see distinguishing features, I can see distinguishment between the colors of these, but man, they're just not clear enough, and there's no numbers that are visible on them. So I'm going to try using my poker chips for money, in which case I think we're looking at denominations of 50. I'm not going to go with hundreds. 250, 1,000, 5,000, and I don't know, whatever. You know, I'm going to go in that kind of order, which is a little different from what I usually go. Usually I go 1, 5, 25, 100, 500 for the XX games. But here 50 seems to be the smallest denomination, and I want lots of white chips to represent the 50s. I mean, reds could too, so that wouldn't really be a problem. Really, the only set that's small is the green and black sets. So we'll think about it. But yeah, these I just want to sweep aside. The black holes get mixed in with these. They're going to get shuffled up and put on the board. And then the board's going to regulate movement of player spaceships. These are control markers of planets players control. Those are going to be marked on here. When you explore a system, you draw one of these and you find out kind of what is about it. And these are going to be your crew cards. They're going to enable you to be able to operate more effectively. It's not, you know, it's not like roll up characters and everything like in the Pandora game. All right. Onward. Okay, they say lay out the board on a smooth, flat surface. Turn all the planetary system markers and 4 black holes face down and shuffle them without looking at the printed side. Place one face down in each of the small boxes to the left of the planetary systems names. Now, okay. So, what that would mean then is that these black holes should, I think, show up on here, but they don't. Because you're going to be putting these guys over here like this. And only discovering them. Yeah, I don't know. It's just such a weird thing in the setup. It made perfect sense when I read it originally, but then looking at the pieces, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Just like with the money, I'm like, I see nothing on these. Okay, so we'll try to do this. Each player now selects one spaceship and 7 planetary control markers of the same color. We've done that. Each player selects a home planetary system and puts his ship counter on that system on the map portion of the game board. So you'll be putting your ship on something. And the planetary control markers in the outer box containing the same planetary system name. So so I don't think you're flipping over a counter yet, which means there's like, you've got system names that match these system names, but you're not actually using them or something. I don't fucking understand. Okay. If any disputes arise, such as 2 players wishing to begin the game with the same home planetary system, a solution may be reached by flipping a coin or rolling a die. Great. Shuffle the crew card deck and deal face down 4 to each player. Everybody gets 1,000 galactic credits. Well, 50, 250. Is that what I was doing? 1,000, 5,000. So we give each person a blue for 1,000 is what I was saying. Okay. Now, technically that's going to go on their home planetary system box. The rest of the little counters would go up here in the bank space. And no, you don't move around the board like you would in Monopoly. All right. players basically randomize their order of play. We're going to go, I've already essentially done that. We're going to go this way. It's not like they're any different. Strange New Worlds is played in turns. Each player completes his turn before going to the next player. During a turn, you can do the following. If you begin the turn on a planetary system that you control, and by you, it's your ship. By the way, one of the things that kept me from playing this was these side-mounted counters, which are a pain in the ass to clip. Yes, I've done it with other games, but these all came kind of loose in this big bag. You know, it wasn't like I was punching it out and clipping. I mean, usually when I buy a used game, somebody's done something to improve the counters. But also, the age of the game. This is a 78 game. It's by, what is it? Let's see. Division of Heritage Models, Game Time Games. Now, I recognize that name. I looked online for it, and I saw a couple I recognized. One is Sopwith, which has been kind of on my radar for some reason. I thought I actually owned it, but I don't, as far as I can tell. But only one that I own, and Grand Imperialism is on there, which is one that I've always kind of toyed with. Do I want to get this thing? I think they made a computer game out of it, but I'm not sure. I know they made one of the same name, Imperialism and Grand Imperialism, but I don't know for sure. But the one that I remember is this really awful, I don't know. It's this sort of kids game on the Knights of the Round Table called Quest. And there's actually space. It's so poorly developed that there's spaces on the board that you can't get out of. When you're sitting at certain places on the round table, you actually can't play the game if you're on them. You have to make modifiers for it. But you know, you go around and you follow quests off little cards and stuff, and it feels kind of like a better version of Mystic Wood. I don't know why the hell that game sells for so much. I had a copy of it. I ended up giving it to my Psycho Ex, and she promptly managed to have her animals destroy it, which, you know, whatever. I mean, I gave it away. I didn't like it. But I did feel kind of bad about giving it away because my little brother, who was like 5 or so, really liked it. But she liked it too, so, you know. And I had it with me where I was at school instead of near him. Okay. So let's see what you can do. You can pick up any credits that have accumulated on that system. So money is going to show up on these boxes. You can pick it up. Picking it up puts it with your ship, which I think means you keep it near you like this, which is not what we're expressing right now. You can buy new cards from the deck. You can transfer crew cards from your hand, the ship, to the planet that you're on and vice versa, and they'll go onto here. You can move your ship. You can colonize or have combat if the ship completes the move on another planetary system. And if you begin the turn on a planetary system that you do not control or in space between planetary systems, you're only allowed to move your ship and or colonize and have combat. Okay. Which makes sense. You wouldn't be putting things, you know, on a planet. All right. Ships move in 2 manners. They can be moved using the hyperspace jump or normal movement. To use let's explain the one that's weird. To use hyperspace jump, a player's ship must begin the turn on a planetary system and end on a planetary system. When you use hyperspace jump, the following is done. You announce that you will jump. Then you take a planetary system marker from the box on the outer edge of the game board that corresponds to the system that your ship counter is currently occupying. Okay. Where did they say place face down? Turn all the planetary system markers in 4 black holes, shuffle them. Without looking at these, place one in each of the small blocks. Okay, I don't know what the fuck they're going on about. It feels like something's just misaligned here. You take the system marker from the box on the outer edge of the map that corresponds to the planetary... yes, this is why. I.e., if the ship is occupied system Zala on the map portion, the marker that's face down to the left of the Zala box is turned face up. This is the system where you must move your ship to. So that's what these are for. They're not some kind of indication of something. They indicate the stargates, the jumps, whatever, from any given system. Okay. Yeah, I would have remembered that if I had read these more recently. The movement takes place immediately. The counter is left face up, and any players that jump from that system in the future will go to the named planetary system, which might be a black hole. Players may never use the jump when their ship begins its move on a black hole. If, when making a jump from a system, the marker is turned up as a black hole marker, the player must move to that black hole. Now, normal movement is moving the ship 1 point in any direction on the map. A point is lateral or vertical. I think. Ship counters are always located on one of the 3 types of points on the map board: blue diamond, planetary system, or black hole. Players may only move their own ships. Players may either use jumps or normal movement in a single turn, but not both. Yeah. Okay. Colonization, colonies. If a ship ends its movement on a system that's not previously been colonized or explored, the player may attempt to colonize the system. If the system has not already been explored, you draw a planetary card and read it to yourself. If you are able and want to conduct a colonization, you show the card to the other players and play the necessary crew cards and or credits. After completing this, you place a colonist crew card with one of your planetary control markers in the systems box on the outer edge of the game board. We're going to see about credits because it says you put them initially on your home planetary box, which may mean you don't want to take them all with your ship, but because I think you pay out of your ship, but we're not sure yet. This indicates the system belongs to that player, and any and all rewards belong to that player. If a player, after examining the planetary card, cannot or does not wish to colonize the system, they put the planetary card face down in the system box. They've explored it. They can't do anything with it. If other players visit it, they deal with that same card. In order to colonize a planetary system, you must be able to comply with the instructions on the card. If the card say that a science officer and engineering team are required, then the player must play those crew cards from his hand. They must be available in your hand, and they cannot be played from another system. Cards played in this manner are discarded face up to be returned to the unused portion of the crew card deck as play proceeds. If a planetary card says initial, followed by a sum of credits, then the colonizing player must pay that sum of credits in the bank, as well as discarding the appropriate crew cards. Once the conditions of the card have been met, the colonizing player must place at least one colonist crew card in the system's box on the edge of the game board. If all these conditions are met, then the player has colonized the system and may place one of his control markers there. Now, you don't have to put a card on your home planet at the beginning. We'll see. There's no limit to the number and types of crew cards that can be placed on a planetary system. Once the conditions of the card have been met, that card, unless it offers a bonus to the controlling player, is discarded and removed from the gameplay. It offers a bonus, it's kept in the appropriate system's box, and its bonus, bad typesetting or something. Once a planetary system has been colonized, it produces income in the form of credits. Colonized systems produce a minimum of 50 credits per game turn. If the system contains a bonus card, such as plus 100, then the system would produce its normal 50 plus an additional 100 each turn. All income produced by colonies is placed in the systems box at the beginning of that player's turn. For a player to obtain the credits, he must move his ship to each system that he controls containing credits. As the ship reaches a system that contains credits, the controlling player may take those credits and place them on his home system. So what you're going to get is jump routes that you're hoping turn into little circles or something, I think. In order for a player a player may spend only the credits that are on his home system. He may not use credits that have accumulated on a colony until he has moved his ship to that colony and picked up the income. Does it go to your home system? The credits produced by a colony are placed in the system's box at the beginning of the controlling player's turn. Once trying to look to see if there's any limitation to what are home systems like. Are they really here? I don't know. Once a planet has been colonized and abandoned, the requirements for colonization need never be met again. In order for a new player to colonize it, all they need to do is move the ship to the system and put a colonist there. When a planetary card calls for specific types of crew cards to be used in colonizing, those crew cards, once played, are discarded back to the crew card deck. Okay. All right. Combat. If a player's ship ends its movement in a system that's controlled by an opposing player, he may elect to have combat and try to win the system for himself. Combat is conducted as following. Each player selects from the crew cards that are currently available to him. The player who controls the system will use every crew card that's in the system box for combat purposes. The player who is invading the system may only use the crew cards that are in his hand on the ship. The invading player need not use all his hands, but he must declare which ones he's using before the combat's results are determined. If the results are unfavorable to the invader, he may not change his mind and add more cards. Each crew card has a number printed on it. This is the combat value. To resolve the combat, the players add up the totals of the combat value of the crew cards involved and compare their totals. Now, what's not noted here, when you colonize, it doesn't say which way your colonist crew card is pointed, but I think it's more interesting if it's face down, right? Because otherwise, you know what you need to beat them. And if the enemy can't paw through them, to count them perhaps. Okay. The player with the smaller total loses all of the crew cards that were involved in the combat. They're discarded back to the crew deck. The player with the higher total loses a total of combat values that are equal to the number of combat values lost by the losing player. So it's not a half exchange, it's a full exchange. The winning player then discards these cards back to the crew card deck. If the winning player cannot lose exactly the same number, he must lose more. If the losing player occupied the system that was being invaded, all of his crew cards have been returned to the crew card deck and his control marker goes back to his home system. The invading player may now place a colonist card on the system and control marker to indicate that he now controls the system. What is a colonist card? That is a type of crew card. A colonist crew card is something you're going to need to be able to colonize systems at all. You might not get any. Okay. If the losing player, if a system that contains accumulated credits is won through combat, then the winning player may collect those credits at the time of the combat. When you desire to buy new crew cards, you must buy them from the bank. Players can only buy them during your turn and before you move your ship. You may only buy them when your ship is in a system that you control. To buy new crew cards, you announce to the other players you're going to do so. You tell the other players how many cards you want. They each will cost you 100 credits. These credits are placed in the bank before you see the crew cards. After paying the right amount, you draw cards and you put them in your hand. You may never have 4 in your hand at the time you move your ship. If you bought more crew cards, you have to put some of them on the planet that you just bought them from. You can transfer cards from your hand to a system anytime during your turn, either before or after movement. You may never have more than 4 cards on the ship at the time of movement. You may never buy more than 4 cards on the same turn. You may never end your turn holding more than 4 cards in your hand. If a player controls 7 systems at any one time, and that's how many counters you have, before all the planetary markers have been turned face up, that player wins the game. If no one controls 7 and all the planetary markers have been turned face up, i.e. all the jump routes have been mapped, then you determine the winner by totaling the credits that you have in hand are on home system and colonies. Then you add an additional 100 credits for each system that you control. Whoever has the highest total wins the game. Really, really light and simple rules, but I think it's going to be kind of interesting, to tell you the truth. Which is, that's sort of the goal as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I had some trouble parsing what the rules meant, and I'm definitely having some trouble with some of the components. We'll start setting it up, and then we'll get moving. I think, a lot of it's going to be the randomness as to what kind of routes you can build. I suspect this game would really suck in small numbers of players because you might not have much player interaction at all. I gotta swap batteries. How many players here? The back is absolutely blank. Front. Game for all ages 8 and up. Doesn't seem to tell you how many players. Obviously, it can only hold 6, but there doesn't seem to be any recommendation that, you know, you don't play this in 2, and I think it's going to really suck in 2. Maybe 3 would still work, but yeah, it feels like... Now, what you might be able to do is cut the board, you know, metaphorically by putting paper over it or something. I'm going to find it really annoying, though, where these are located in relation to where they are on the map. That's going to be a real annoyance, and I can tell already. All right, I'm going to load this up and start setup.